What we're going to talk about is how bone is made and how bone is broken down. Those are the two things we're going to be talking about. It's pretty much the first page minus a little bit of the bottom part of the page. Bone production, bone resorption. We're going to draw two pictures that are completely key that we'll keep on going back to, back to, back to, back to. So what we're going to start with is this. So we're going to draw this now. This is what we're going to draw. By the time we get done drawing this first picture, we will have taken care of all of that. All right? Now before we get started, I want to reiterate what three cells are. Osteoblasts, osteoclasts, osteocytes. And I want to make sure that we completely understand what they are. So we're just going to define them. Osteoblasts. An osteoblast is not a bone cell. It is a cell within bone. When you hear bone cell, you should think osteocyte, the ones with the little arms and little legs. That is a bone cell. Now, in order to get us to that bone cell, we start with the osteoblast. The osteoblast is going to become the osteocyte. Every osteocyte within your bone used to be an osteoblast. So, osteoblasts differentiate, I'm going to use the big fancy word, I'll tell you what it means in just a second, differentiate into osteocytes, which once again is a bone cell. Now what does differentiate mean? It means turns. Turns into. That's what it means. Okay? So an osteoblast is going to turn into an osteocyte, and that's our first big picture. That's bone production. All right? You cannot have these cells unless you have these cells, because these cells turn into those cells, differentiate into them. So that takes care of the two cells. What about the third? Osteoclasts. Osteoclasts resorb bone. Put the word bone here. Resorb, we'll put in parentheses above it, break down bone. Put a nice hard line here so that we know that we're separate there. So osteoclasts have a job, break bone down. They're going to destroy osteocytes. That's what they're going to do. They're going to kill osteocytes. That's what osteoclasts do. They're going to kill osteocytes. But they do it for a reason. And we're going to see what those reasons are. Now sometimes osteoclasts kill too many osteocytes, and then it leads to disease. Diseases like osteoporosis, which we'll talk about. And that's later on Monday. So again, this is what our whole next 25 minutes is, right there. Those are our two pictures. This is going to be the first picture. This is going to be the second picture. All right? So let's draw the first picture. Let's talk about how an osteoblast turns into an osteocyte. Let's see how you make bone. So we're going to start with our osteoblast. We're going to put a blood vessel in here as well. We'll talk a teeny bit about the blood vessel in this picture, but more so later on Monday. So we have a blood vessel, and within that compartment, we obviously know we have blood. Plasma is the liquid part of that blood that has something in it that's important for us to understand with this story. We're going to draw an osteoblast here. We're going to label it. So there's our osteoblast. Now, the osteoblast is going to make two things that we're concerned with. Now, it makes other stuff, but these are the two things that have to do with this story. One thing that it's going to make is osteoid. And you guys know what osteoid is. What does osteoid do for us when it comes to bone? It gives bone its what? Start with that. Strength. Your bones are strong because of this substance. Now, what is this substance made up of mainly? What molecule? Start with a C. Collagen. And what kind of a molecule is collagen out of the organics that we talked about? Start with a P. It's protein. Collagen is protein. You actually need protein to build bone. You usually don't hear that. Talk about protein builds muscle. Protein builds bone as well. You can't build bone unless you have protein, specifically collagen. So what we'll do above osteoid is we'll put in parentheses collagen because that's mainly what it is. Does it have other stuff in it? Yes. But we're just concerned about the collagen part. So, the osteoblast is producing osteoid. How does it do that, by the way? Specifically collagen. How is that osteoblast going to make collagen? What does it do? There's two processes that are going to happen. Both of them start with a T. Transcription and translation, right? Isn't every protein in your body produced? Is collagen a protein? Yes. That osteoblast has a recipe for collagen. Where's the recipe lie, by the way? Where is it? In the DNA, specifically in Levi's buckle genes, right? Spelled differently, but within genes, correct? Isn't that where the recipe is? And so we're going to transcribe the gene, we're going to get mRNA, mRNA is going to get translated, we're going to have protein, collagen specifically. You know what, by the way, on the exam, if I talk about the production of bone and maybe it being compromised and not being done properly or well, could I talk about transcription and translation on the exam? Can I? Is it in your notes, specifically in this chapter? Do you see the words transcription and translation in that chapter, on that page? You will not. But can I talk about it? Can it be on the exam? Will you be able to critically think and put the ideas together on the exam and hopefully answer the questions correctly? The very first day I told you, you're not allowed to forget anything in this class, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Stuff is going to build, and as it does, you're going to get smarter and smarter and smarter. All right? So my exams are not comprehensive, right? I told you that 100 times. They're not cumulative, they're not comprehensive, but you can't forget anything. All right? So it makes osteoid. What else does it make? I said it makes two things. This is the second thing. You guys can already tell me. Starts with an H. Gives bone its hardness. Hydroxyapatite. So hydroxyapatite is the second substance that the osteoblasts are going to produce in order for bone to be produced. Again, that's what our big picture is here, right? This is bone production. That's what this story is. How do we make bone? We need an osteoblast to do what first? Make a protein, collagen, and to make hydroxyapatite, which is mainly made of two ions. And those two ions are calcium and phosphate. I'm going to use chemical for both of those. Calcium, Ca2+, phosphate, PO4, 3-. So that's what hydroxyapatite is mainly. Is there other stuff in hydroxyapatite? Yeah, there's other stuff in it. But those are the two things that we need to be concerned about. We'll just talk about, and what we're going to spend our time mostly on when it comes to other stories later on, we're going to talk about osteoid, but we'll also talk more about hydroxyapatite. Where do you think that osteoblast gets the calcium and the phosphate? Where do you think it gets it from? The blood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put calcium and I'm going to put phosphate in the blood because that's where it comes from. Now, certainly the amino acids come from the blood as well to help make the osteoid, but when we talk about some stuff later, we're going to concentrate on hydroxyapatite. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have an arrow on both of these indicating that that's where it came from. So the osteoblasts are going to transport the calcium and the phosphate into the cell so that the cell can make hydroxyapatite. All right? Now what? Now what this osteoblast is going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a number 1 here. And what that 1 is the production of both of those. All right? Number 2, I'm going to have an arrow for each. Osteoid is going to be secreted. Hydroxyapatite is going to be secreted here. What's this space called, by the way? Interstitial space. Very good. So now both of those products that the osteoblast produce is now in the interstitial space. And actually a lot of it is just kind of surrounding the cell. It's kind of stuck to the cell's wall, the outer wall of the cell. That's very important because as soon as these two products are mixed with each other, they don't get mixed inside the cell, they're going to get mixed outside the cell. They're produced separately. And they're going to be released into the interstitial space. They're going to start to cover the cell. Remember, the cell's a three-dimensional structure. And it's going to start to crystallize, or they are going to start to crystallize. They're going to mix. Osteoid, these two are going to mix. So we'll depict that, I don't know, they mix. They mix, and as they do, they crystallize. Actually, I'm going to put a fancier word there. Calcify. It hardens. And then I'll put in parentheses crystallize, because I think that kind of gives you a visual of what happens. What I want you to think about here is a glazed donut. The cell is the donut. The glaze on the donut is the crystallization of these two products. That's exactly what's going to happen here. This cell is being encased by this mixture. And that's important that that occur. Because as soon as that occurs, it causes stuff, and I'd use that word, right? We're going to use the word stuff that happens inside the cell. What are we talking about? Starts with an R. Second chapter. 6 lines long. Receptors, right? When a receptor binds, stuff happens inside of the cell. Well, this is going to cause stuff to happen inside of this cell as well. We're not going to talk about what that stuff is. We just need to know the punchline. So this cell is going to release this osteoid and the hydroxyapatite. The two are going to mix together. It's going to harden, literally harden. And it's going to cause stuff to happen inside of that cell. It's going to cause calcification. And as a result of that, so we're going to put the number 2 here because that stuff's going to get released. Number 3, we're mixing. And it's going to calcify, it's going to harden. That's what calcification is. You see the word calcification in your notes? It's in bold. That's what I'm talking about. Why do they call it calcification? What is hydroxyapatite made of? Calcium in part, right? That's why it's calcification. Now, you can have calcification in other parts of your body for other reasons. You can have calcification in soft tissue. You get this like hardened little area. Sometimes with breast cancer, you get a lump in your breast. Sometimes it's not cancer. Sometimes it's just simply a whole bunch of calcium that kind of did this. Not because an osteoblast is in your breast, but because calcium can start to do that for other reasons. All right, so this can happen in other places that have absolutely nothing to do with the production of bone. All right, so what's number 4 now? Number 4 is differentiation. Now we're going to start to change. That's what the stuff is going to cause to happen inside that cell. That cell is going to start to change its shape. It's going to start to grow legs. It's going to start to grow arms. It's going to become a different kind of cell. It's going to become an osteocyte. And it will not do that unless it gets that mixture hardened around its membrane. That's the signal to start to change. And again, we're not concerned about what the signaling process is within the cell. It's a black hole of information. It's a ton of biochemistry. We don't care about that. We care about the punchline. So differentiation, 4. And let's draw an osteocyte. If I draw an osteocyte, I kind of do that. It's got little arms and little legs, right? There's an osteocyte. And let's put the stuff around it. Let's do this. We'll label it. That's the crystalline structure. It's still there. It doesn't go away. It has to remain there. If it doesn't, that cell is going to die. All right? So that represents, that right there is the osteoid and the hydroxyapatite that is crystallized. Okay? It doesn't go away. We just made bone. Yes? So again, differentiation means turn into. That osteoblast turned into another cell. It turned into a bone cell. That's its job. Its job is to change into another cell. All right? So, looking at that picture,